Now, you've laid out a very good case, and I know that there's a lot of support, especially among younger Albertans. But as an Albertan myself, I see a real challenge, and I'm curious as how you're planning to address it. If we look back at, obviously, we just look at this recent federal election, only 3 ridings in all of Alberta did not go Conservative. But if you go back to the provincial election, when we elected Danielle Smith, she was elected by the rural areas. The urban centers, if you looked at Calgary, you looked at Edmonton, it was almost all orange. It was all NDP. And the statistics, when you look at them for who elected Carney, well, that shows that was the baby boomers. They were the only demographic that voted majority Liberal. Why? Because they're wealthy, they're comfortable, they've got their pensions, they've got their homes, they own their homes, and none of the crap that's been going on in the last 10 years has really touched them. And I think you got another challenge there in Alberta because you still got a lot of those people around who are going to say, well, I don't want to give up my Canadian identity, and none of this has really affected them. So what's your plan to get through to get to those people?
Well, I like to speak to that. First of all, everybody needs to understand that when you vote for Alberta independence, you're not losing your Canadian citizenship or your Canadian passport. Everybody that's a Canadian citizen in Alberta remains a Canadian citizen. The Canadian government doesn't recognize the renunciation of citizenship. And let's look at, Marxist Carney and his little buddy Mike Myers with their little elbows up, right? Mark Carney has like 4 or 5 passports, EU, Ireland, UK, probably UN, Canadian, whatever, all these globalists. So they're like the pick a passport crowd because they should be able to travel wherever they want, but it's us that they want to control, and we should be limited to 1 passport, right? Mike Myers is the same thing. He's like he's not a dual citizen. He's he's got triple citizenship. He's got UK. So he's got a UK passport, US passport, and a Canadian passport, right? And he's, elbows up, Canada. I can go anywhere I want because I got my 3 passports. And, when Carney turns Canada into a Marxist hell, you only have 1, but that's not my problem. Elbows up, right? So, I don't have a lot of, I think we can counter that argument. The other thing is boomers, not boomers, whatever, urban, rural, whatever. Everybody understands their basic household math, right? So if you're a boomer and you're worried about capital gains tax, if you're a boomer, on your investments and on your property, that's going to go away. If you're a boomer, you're still paying income tax, right? Federal income tax on your investments and money you got coming in. You're not going to be doing that anymore. If you're collecting a Canadian pension or if you're collecting a pension from somewhere, your pension rights don't change. It doesn't matter whether you're living in independent Alberta or you're living in Costa Rica or Florida or Portugal or wherever the hell you decided to retire to, your pension is your pension. It's portable. Nobody can take that away from you, right? So, there's that. But again, it was kind of funny. I did an interview with Donna Friesen from out of Toronto, with Global National, several weeks ago now. Just it's all been such a blur. But, when we were off camera, she turns to me and she goes, well, Jeff, I have a question for you. And I said, yeah. And she goes, are your supporters mainly rural people? And I love the way they say rural. It's like we're dirt on their shoes, right? Are they rural people? And I said, no, Donna. I said, we have lots of supporters in the cities and we have APP chapters in the cities. And, look at that event in Calgary the other night. It was standing room only. We turned away 300 people. We had over 1,000 people in Calgary last night.